Snow Patrol!
My name is Sam Hearn. I'm here with Kyle Toth of Toth Woodworking, and honored to be talking with you today, bud.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on.
So you are a woodworker like I like, but you are way more professional and way more talented than I will ever be, probably. Um, and that was honestly how I first found out about you, because one of the things that I do for my mental health is just work in the shop all the time. Like
Mhm.
that's really my getaway. And I build boats, just long problems with short solutions kind of thing.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm wondering, like, how'd you get into it? What's that life been like? I don't want to put any terms onto you, but it seems like if someone can do their passion for their life and earn some money off of it, that must be fairly rewarding.
Oh yeah.
Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So I mean, I started out early. Like I've been building stuff like since I was 10 years old. I was getting boxes of nails and screws for Christmas. 10 years old, asking for sheets of plywood. And my parents would entertain it and stuff like that. So I started out just building go karts and skate ramps, and it evolved into skateboards, and then like not the nicest furniture, but like, furniture,
Usable.
like,
Yeah,
usable, like outdoor stuff,
sure.
like my parents didn't want to put this plywood stuff in their house. So I did that for a couple years. And no one in my family makes things. My
No?
parents are both in the medical field. So my grandpa, he could fix anything. He could make and
Gotcha.
fix anything. So I probably picked it up from him. But yeah, I mean, it started out like making just furniture out of plywood. And then I always thought like I wanted to be like a home builder,
Hmm.
like building houses, and like every kind of like year that I would progress, like it got to like a finer and finer level. So first it was like home building, and then it was like, okay, I want to do kitchen cabinets, and I was like, okay, then I want to do furniture. So like it kept on, like the level of tolerance kept on getting narrow and narrow and narrow. With the house you have larger tolerances, kitchen cabinets you have tolerances. So it was almost like a level, not a level of perfection, but just a level of like just a higher quality of standard, I was trying to reach. So when I was like 16, my parents like bought me some really nice wood, like from Home Depot. They sell like that straight line oak, and they
Hmm.
bought me some of that, and I built their kitchen table, and they like still have
Cool.
it today. So they're like, all right, I think this could be a thing for them. And then my neighbor, he had a wood lathe, and I wanted to borrow it because I wanted to make a baseball bat. And he was like 70 at the time, retired engineer, dude, like processed everything to a T. And he brought this lathe over, and he's like, have fun. Here's how you turn it on. And then like a week later, he brought over some pictures of some segmented stuff, and I was like, I want nothing to do with that. That looks way too time consuming. So I kind of, dabbled around turning, and then, hopped into the segmented stuff, and that's kind of where I found my true passion. That's like my favorite thing to do. So from there, I bought my own lathe. I got a sweet Jet 1442 lathe from a like a not like an auction, but like it was a floor model at a showroom. So
Cool.
they sold it to me for like half off. So I got this like $1,600 lathe for like $800. I was stoked, and I was like 17 at the time. So I had been making and selling like cutting boards and coffee tumblers, and taking them out to like the wineries and setting up a little booth and selling stuff out there. So I've never had an actual job. I've only ever made things and sold them. And then I had a teacher tell me about this school in Boston in high school, and called North Bennett Street School, and I checked it
Hmm.
out, and I went there, and that's where I learned all of like the fine detail, how to build things, how to make things last forever, how to finish things, museum quality work, but on whatever you want to build, whether it's
Hmm.
modern or 17th century stuff. So that's kind of how I got my start.
That's pretty cool though. But I feel similar influences to you. I also went to architecture school for a while. I thought that was going to be my gig in life.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't. Like I figured out I worked for a couple architecture firms, and it was just too needy of customers, and I don't want to deal with someone putting up major money in life and the stresses that go along with it. Um, I'm wondering what it was like at the North Bennett Street School, right? I should
Hmm.
know it's
Yeah,
around
yeah.
here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's in Boston. They've been around since 1885. It's like the oldest trade school in America. They have all hands-on like trade skills. So it's cabinet and furniture making, piano, violin, jewelry making, locksmithing, preservation, carpentry, and I'm probably missing a few, but they're all their own, each of individual programs, and they only accept like 12 people a semester for each one. So the whole school is only like 150, 160 people, and they just focus on making things to the highest quality, the highest standard, and that's at first it was like very daunting because it's very slow. They start everybody off at the same level,
mhm.
but going through it, you realize that they're putting everybody on the same level so that way they can build all their skills up
Work the
and
fundamentals.
yeah, the fundamentals, and teach you how to do things. And they focused a lot on hand tools. They said, if you can learn how to use hand tools, you'll be able to set up any machine to do anything you want. And if you can't, you could use your hand tools to figure it out.
Right.
Which was
So,
like very key because it takes a level of like problem solving to another level, where it's just not based on the machines or the machine you have. I feel like a lot of people focus on the machine they have when, the machine you have could be, a saw in your hand with a hand plane. So,
and a lot
but
more effort.
yeah, a little bit more effort, but it was a super cool experience. I went through their 2-year cabinet furniture making program. Loved every second of it, just soaked up as much as I could. And then I moved back to California, worked in my parents' garage for a little bit. And then I did an apprenticeship in San Diego at an Art Deco shop
Cool.
down there. And then uh, I wasn't really making too much money. The guy was just kind of, I was building like in like mansions in La Jolla, like $80,000 ceiling panels, in houses, and he was paying me not too much. So I was like, you know what, I'm out of here. I think you're taking advantage of my skills. So,
Mm,
yeah, but I learned a lot there, and I don't regret any of it. But it was
sure.
just like it was time to move on. Like he wanted me to stay for like 4 or 5 years, and I'm like, dude, this is too slow. I want to go out and do this on my own. I'm making new money. It's time for me to set out. So I found this really cool deserted abandoned barn that my friend's parents owned, and they're like, "You want to rent that?"
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, it's perfect." They're like, "Sure, take it." So I fixed up this old decrepit barn, and that was my shop and studio for about 4 years. And now I'm in New Mexico.
Oh, very
I have a
cool.
shop out here, yeah. So my girlfriend started med school out here, so we moved out here, and I kind of wanted to hop into more of like my own personal work,
Hmm.
and it kind of seemed like the right time, and cost of living is a lot cheaper out here, and we ended up getting a house out of it, so it worked out pretty good.
So something I've been interested in, and I honestly am interested in talking to about all woodworkers and people in general, especially friends. So big part of my experience, I'd have a lot of friends not be allowed to come over anymore because I would be like 10 years old and teaching them how to use a table saw, and their parents would be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you're using power tools at Sam's house with no supervision." Like, yeah, but he taught me how to do it the right way. And
yeah,
so confidence with tools though. And I know that like a lathe is a very daunting tool to walk up to, and like the fact of things can rupture and explode on you, or like a table saw can hurt you pretty badly if you're not using it confidently. And um, so what was your experience like going through the steps? I imagine North Bennett taught you some of those, like the finer details of these things, but what's it been like in your experience just to gain confidence with these tools?
uh yeah, I mean, hopping, I feel like when you start with like a mini lathe, it's a lot
Hmm.
more approachable. So like when you start on your own, like all your machines are a lot smaller. Doesn't mean that they're safer, but they feel more approachable because like
Hmm.
you could pick them up. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like so it's something that I like can't move feels a little bit more
Absolutely.
unapproachable.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it's just one of those things. It's like maybe some people are like born to do things. Some people are born with super well balance and they can ride a manual down the street, on a bicycle, and it just comes natural. So I just always felt natural around power tools, but there was a lot of things that I wasn't doing wrong, but I could be doing a lot better.
Hmm.
And that is like super key. Accidents like still happen. Like I still took my pinky down to the bone with a router table,
Yeah.
but like like all of my teachers at the school, they had all their fingers still,
Yeah.
and it's like, they've been teaching for 30 years. They've been woodworking for, close to 40, 50 years. And so just, it was about just like paying attention,
Hmm.
being like super present, and, just not being afraid to ask for help. There's plenty of times where I didn't know how to set something up, and,
Sure.
you don't want to just act like you're super confident macho man,
Hmm.
like you could get yourself into some serious trouble. So I don't know. I feel like I was kind of like raised with it in a way because I just been holding drills and hammers and power tools since I was, 9, 10 years old.
Hmm.
But it's funny, my when my parents brought me home from the hospital, like my brother, he's 3 years older, but they put him in like pajamas, like a onesie that was had all bikes on it. He's a pro cyclist.
Cool.
They put me in pajamas that had like tools and saws and hammers on it, and like I'm a full time, woodworker. So it's like I don't know if you really have a choice sometimes.
It's
You know what I
interesting.
mean? It's super interesting. It's crazy how it worked out, but
So I think that woodworking and mindfulness and just like being present have a lot to do with each other. Um, like I said, one of the best moments of my everyday when I really need to calm down is walking in and picking up a tool and just forgetting about what's going on because you're focusing on the stroke you're making or the result that you're coming from. So what's your experience like? Do you use that as like a coping strategy in life at all, or is it because it's your profession, it's a little bit more stressful?
well, I've when I first started out, I set boundaries for like things I didn't want to make. Like I'm like I never want to have to paint furniture because I hate
Cool.
painting. So that ruins like that aspect. Even if I could get $500, for this job of making this thing out of MDF and painting it,
Hmm.
like that $500 isn't worth bringing me
Happiness.
down for,
Yeah.
2 days in the shop. So I always had like boundaries that I wouldn't cross. And one that I've held to this day is the segmented wood turning. I don't do that stuff on commission base.
Right.
It's solely for me. I make the pieces for myself. I put them on my website. If people want to buy them, they can. But I've never taken a commission on them. I took one commission on it, and I was like, it took me 8 months to finish it. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Like I learned. I'm like,
Sure.
okay, so I kind of had like boundaries. I mean, I enjoy going into the shop every day. It's like where I rather be hanging out as long as it's not 110 degrees in there. But, that's like my happy place, and I've set my shop up in a way where like I want to hang out in it.
Yeah, your
It's
shop is really cool. Like
yeah,
you got speakers, you got lights, you got
it's got everything. So it's like I don't need to go anywhere. If people like want to do something, they could come to my place, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what it was. It was like, okay, we're gonna go hang out at Toast Place, because he's got the lasers and the beer on tap and everything there. So I've set it up in a way that like it's a very comfortable space. I mean,
Mhm.
there still are things where like, okay, I get an order for 200 tap handles, and they need them in 2 weeks, and it's just repetitive, doing one step 100, 200 times, but I treat that just like almost more like a 9 to 5, where it's okay, I'll show up at 8, I'll leave at 5, you know what I mean? And I try not to let myself get burnt out with like commission type things, but I've separated my segmented work from my personal work, which I think was key. And saying like, okay, there's some things that I just don't want to build. I'm not interested. Like I learned that built-ins for me are super frustrating because I don't want to have to build something perfectly and then figure out how to get it to these people's house and
Yeah.
spend a day or two installing it. You know what I mean? Like I just learned that it's just some things just aren't worth the money. You know what I mean? It's just not worth it. So, and that's like more important for keeping, I feel like, your psyche level,
It's very
because
admirable though.
yeah,
And like and insightful as well. Like a lot of people just kind of if there's a dollar bill attached to it,
yeah.
you
In
got to
which,
do
like,
the
when
work.
you start out, like that's how it was. I would take any job, but I was like, I
Mhm.
don't want to. I just had like certain boundaries, I was like, I don't want to have to do that, and I built up from like working in my parents' garage where my overhead was super low and wasn't paying
Mhm.
rent for
Mhm.
anything. Had to pay for my car insurance and gas and wood. You know what I mean? And then I got my own shop, and like the rent there was pretty cheap. So I always like I started with minimal things and like added onto them like as my network of people that I knew grew, rather than hopping into it, with a fat loan and then trying to figure it out that way, which works for people, but that could be like just as daunting, and I feel like you get pretty stressed out or burnt out, just having like numbers over your head or something like that.
Mhm. So numbers, speaking of numbers, you go into crazy numbers with your segment pieces though, being made of like thousands of individual pieces, literally
Yeah.
thousands. Like what's that like to start a project and know that you have so much work ahead of you, and then kind of like do you start with a plan in mind for some of these? Do you have to for this segmented because you have to go do the math, or is it
Yeah. So I start with half drawing of like my shape. If it's a vase, I draw it on just a piece of paper, and then I'll
mm-hmm,
divide up all my rings with like the thickness of the piece of wood that I want, and I'll just like shade in like the colors and the patterns and things like that.
mm-hmm,
Um, I at Bennett they didn't have any like computers. Everything was drafting. Like they're kind of old school that way.
mm-hmm,
So I did learn how to like draw everything, but we draw everything full size, which was like super key because you could take your piece right off the table side and
match it
like
up? Yeah.
fit it to your work, and you can make templates of it. You could do that with SketchUp and print the things full size, but there was something about like drawing it full size, like you kind of had the scale of this thing right from the get
Mm-hmm.
go, rather
You
than
know the
working on.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah, you know everything. But sorry, I went off topic, but
No, sure.
forgot. Oh, just start. Yeah, starting. I will with like with the segment stuff. It's like I know what my result is going to be, so I don't mind going through the steps to get there. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like, yeah, like people who climb up mountains. Like, I don't want to do that. Why do they want to do that? Well, they know what it's like to achieve something like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as more like I know what my end goal is going to be. I know what it's going to look like, and I get to enjoy every step of the process, like along the way. You know what I
So I
mean?
have a question about your Mobius piece because I imagine putting that together and putting the final touches on it
Yeah.
must have been like orgasmic.
Oh,
Uh,
dude, that thing is crazy, man. Those things are trippy to look at. I don't like staring at it for too long, to be honest. Just
but what's it feel like to get a project that takes so long done and finalized, and your all your pieces are shined up and buffed and taken to a sheen that's just mirror-like finishes and they're gorgeous? What's it look like in your mind to fulfill something like that?
I mean, for me, it's just more of like a journey. Like, it's great to get that piece done, and I'm like super stoked. I usually will just like spend half a day just like looking at it and
Yeah,
appreciating it, and stuff like that. But like for me, I'm kind of creating just like a huge portfolio of work. So it's just like it's a huge accomplishment to finish something like that, but it's just like another page. You know what I mean?
hmm,
And I'm working on like a large body of work, and I don't know what my end goal is like with the stuff because you're always going to be evolving with your skills and your knowledge and creativity. So it's super rewarding, honestly. Like my favorite part, honestly, is for most woodworkers is putting that first coat finish on.
yeah.
Getting that shine pop on there. But I honestly I look forward to every step. There's some steps that are daunting, but I just break them down. Like cutting 3,000 pieces of wood like I'm doing, this morning is not that much fun. But I just crank the music and have a good time in there. So like I take it all for what it's worth and just try and enjoy it.
So a lot of woodworking, it sounds like, where you take a lot of these like test step at a time and safety and asking questions. A lot of these lessons that come from woodworking can go with you later into life. And I'm wondering if you have like any main lessons that you've taken from the shop into your mindset, let's say.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been a pretty chill, like easygoing type of person. Um, so a lot of that like transferred into the shop and it made like maybe difficult situations or like glue ups or things like that where a lot of stress can like come
Sure.
about. It just made them a lot simpler. And like with going to Bennett, they broke everything down into like super simple tasks. Like, okay, we're gonna cut this board into 9 inches wide and then we're going to focus on our next step,
Hmm.
so like being able to just slow everything down to like a manageable pace where honestly kind of anyone could do it if they wanted to, um just kind of, I mean, I'm just more of like a mellow person. I'm not one to like freak out about things, and I feel like a lot of that had to do with me just kind of being on my own financially too, like doing my own woodworking things and having to sell things. It's like, okay, I got to come up with X amount of money by the end of the month, but like every single time for the past 11 years it's just worked out. So
Hmm.
at some point I just stopped forgetting about it. You know what I mean? Like as long as you're actively working on like what you're trying to do, just not slacking off, like I feel like things kind of have fallen into place for me. That's not going to work for everyone, obviously, and I don't
Sure.
like rely on that because I have like things in place now where I have, steady streams of revenue and whatnot. But it was just kind of like, I just feel like I was like literally born to do this, so I'm like fortunate that way. But,
Mm-hmm.
into like normal life, it's just, I just try not to honestly stress about anything because like, what's the point, if you're going to be all hot and bothered about it. So,
That's tough.
yeah.
I wish I could say I do the same, but I'm a very stressed out person in life.
Yeah.
Um, I
I mean, but
also
taking time for yourself is like super important,
sure.
I've always had like ongoing hobbies throughout the years, like that
Hmm.
aren't woodworking related, so having like something else to do when like where I feel like when people get like when they find woodworking, like, oh, this is, I don't have to sit at my, job. I'm super excited to go home and
Get
do
back
this. Like
to it.
I have
Yep.
some hobbies, that are like that, where I'm super stoked to go home and, try out a new cocktail or something like that, or, you know, go hit up the skate park or something like that. So like, and it comes and goes, and sometimes the woodworking is way more fun, and sometimes regular life is way more fun,
Hmm.
But like, I always have like a consistent, wave going on, and I try and stay like right in the middle of that.
It's a good call.
Yeah.
I want to get back to a little bit. I'm impressed that like only your grandfather was the one who's handy. My grandfather and my dad also, so I've always had tools around my
Mhm.
life. Is that relationship with your grandfather, like did that form anything? Or I know a lot of relationships in my life, a lot of old men when I go to boat shows or talk about woodworking, we have a common terminology and like a language that we can talk about.
Yeah,
And
you have like an instant common bond,
yeah,
and it feels like you've kind of known that person for a while just because you can like bond so heavily on that. Yeah. But
so
sorry.
do you have any lasting relationships that have come forward through that?
Yeah, though my relationship with the guy Richard who let me borrow his lathe, after that we became like friends like for forever. So
Hmm.
why I moved since then, but he would come over to the shop like every other day and just hang out or like tinker on things. He loved fixing things, and I hate fixing tools
Yeah,
and things like that. So he would tune up all my machines. So
cool.
like
Lucky
that
man.
was yeah, that was like pretty sweet. But it's kind of like I said, it's like, you can go kind of anywhere where there's other makers or creators, and you kind of just have that like instant bond. Like you had to have like a guaranteed thing to talk about. Um, but like my dad, like he's tried to make things, but he's just not into it as much as me, like
Hmm.
so not to say that we don't have a great bond or anything like that, but
Sure.
you do meet those people in life that kind of like carry you through, you know, and like you always can like go back to them for advice or, just to hang out, or it's like a comfortability thing, it's like sometimes when there's certain people like in the shop, like, or if you're showing someone how to do something, it can be kind of stressful, but like when he was
Hmm.
over, it was just very calm. And he reminded me of my grandpa. My grandpa passed away about 15 years ago. Um, but yeah, he kind of reminded me of him because he was like, he was always a tinkerer, just like fixing things and whatnot. So, it's cool to have like that person in your life. And I feel like it does kind of like mold you in a way because it makes what you're doing seem more not like accepted, but it just kind of validates what you're doing like
Hmm.
within your day to day.
I also, big part of relationships in my life has been being able to build things for people and with people sometimes, but mainly for. Um, and like presents in life for Mother's Day or Mother's birthday kind of thing have always been some piece of wood or something like that.
Yeah.
So I assume you've done a lot of pieces like that for people, but what's it like to be able to give someone something that you put your heart into and they know is really a piece of
Yeah.
you because it's
Oh,
your
it's
gift?
it can be like super emotional is like the best way to describe it. Like, I mean, especially when I make like the a lot of my segmented stuff, like I drop
Mhm.
notes into like everything, and
Oh,
it's
that's real cool.
it's usually just like what's going on in my life, you know what I mean? Or sometimes it's like, just like what's happening or where I've been or what I've come to, and just like appreciating that. But like, um, sorry, I got off topic again.
No,
But
absolutely.
like, yeah, no, it's just like, you know, I don't, it can be like super, it's very emotional. Like if I, like when I made my girlfriend this beautiful redwood burl box, I've been saving this redwood for like 5 years. Like they don't even cut down these types of trees anymore. They don't harvest them anymore. So it was like a very like personal experience, but you get to like pass that along to someone else. You know what I mean? And that's like what I've been able to do. That's like what I honestly my goal was like with my like videos and things like that is like
Hmm.
sharing the process just so other people can like just enjoy the process of like watching something be made.
I appreciate watching
Yeah.
all your stuff.
Oh,
You've always
thanks,
put
man.
great music with it too.
Yeah.
It's very enjoyable content.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to be like, just come and hang out. If you can learn some stuff along the way, that's cool. But just like watch something be made. So, but yeah, I mean, making stuff for other people, like especially like close family. My parents, they have so much wood stuff. They don't want any more wood stuff for me. But every year, I make something and they're like, oh, we want one of those. Like, my mom's like, I made these like leopard print coasters, and
Yep.
she's like, "Hey, Kyle, how do I get a set of those?" I'm like, "Oh, you want some? I'll just give them to you, But it's like the fact that they still like find like just like the joy in a new thing that I make every once in a while is like it's super rewarding.
One of my favorite things I've ever seen made out of wood was your leopard print Nike skateboard
Oh
shoe.
yeah,
That thing is amazing. Like the,
thanks,
the
man.
ingenuity behind it. I also really like you've done a couple like a wine holder, a table with that
Yeah,
leopard print, the falling cube table.
yeah,
Um, that's a totally different realm of your work than the segmented work, but it
yeah,
also feels like your work. That is your kind of a signature
yeah.
piece
Signature
and
piece, yeah.
creation.
And that was like I like ever since I was 16 years old, I always knew that like to develop not like to say like a following, but to develop a brand, you have to have a common theme,
Hmm.
And I literally was searching for that theme, and I was just messing around with some veneer and things like that, and dye and Sharpie, and I had this little Dremel tool, and
Hmm.
literally I was just making samples, just screwing around making stuff, and that like once I saw it, I knew I was like I can have a lifetime fulfilled career with woodworking doing this print because it changes a piece. I like you could put it on anything,
Hmm.
but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It could be
Yeah,
very subtle. You know
it
what I mean?
does.
So yeah, like I've learned that like the whole thing doesn't have to be like in your face. You know what I mean? So like that leopard print has like that stuff I do like take commissions on because some of the stuff like helps me like further like what I want to do with
Sure.
it. But that was like another step of a thing that I'm like, this is kind of like my brand, my thing. And with those, like the coffee holder or the coffee tumblers that have like the leopard print, the wine bottle holders, and the coasters, like I always wanted to create like a home line of products that
Cool.
all are like branded really well, super high quality, like they're never gonna fail on you, like things like
Hmm.
that. So that's what I've slowly been building, like adding one thing at a time to that, and like the coasters are like the newest addition to that thing. So
You build, how often would you say you crank something out? Is it like a piece is done weekly or every couple
yeah, I
weeks?
mean, yeah, it's probably about weekly. Like I stack my projects in a way so that like never have downtime. So
Hmm.
like, and it makes like it's good and bad because then I'll like be like, oh, I have to get this done in the shop, and then I'll end up staying in there until 2 o'clock in the morning. My girlfriend's like, where the heck are you? But like, yeah, I try and stack things in a way that, there's always something to work on, and it kind of keeps like your brain fresh. It keeps you from getting bored on one thing, and it honestly keeps you moving around the shop, which is nice too. So just like, yeah, I if I'm only working on one thing, like I usually it usually takes like 3 times as long to make for some
Hmm.
reason. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I can't figure it out. But I've learned that I just need to have multiple things going on at once, which
That
means my
being,
shop is usually always pretty messy, but like,
yeah.
but that's whatever. That doesn't bother me too much. So,
That being said, I find it very interesting that you put notes in your stuff. Like I never knew that. And I've been following you along pretty closely for a while now.
mhm,
Um, I do kind of the same thing sometimes with boat work. Like I'll write a little note and then sometimes paint over it or in a
mhm,
hatch that no one's ever going to find kind of thing.
yeah.
Um, but my work takes a really long time, and I'm wondering if with doing so much work, is it still seeing a piece, a representation of the time in which you built that piece? Like, do they take you back in the same way, or is it like how does that feel?
Yeah, I mean, like I look at it as all like like the thing I'm working on now is probably going to be one of the nicest things I've ever made, just because I've learned to like get my tolerances tighter, get the seams tighter, get the finish better. So like looking back at pieces, I don't look back at them like downwards, like, oh, it's
Sure.
not good enough. It was like that was the best I could do at the time.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Which is like that's pretty cool when you could like follow, and then you get to follow your work along and
Hmm.
see things progress. But like doing commissions for other people like really helped out with that, because like not everyone has, X amount of money to spend. Sometimes some people just want the thing that they saw at the store, but it doesn't fit their space. You know what I mean? So like I was always willing to like make things. And within that you like learn how to manage your time and just like, like manage people's expectations and manage like their budgets within that project. So it may not be like perfect to you, but it's perfect for them, So like so, you look back on some things and you're like, I don't like that thing, but I didn't really make it for myself, so it doesn't really like bother me too much.
Do they remind you at all, though, of when it was done, like what was going on in your life?
A little bit, yeah. A lot of like the segmented stuff does, just because I usually make that stuff for myself. So I'm usually like more in tune with it, more in focus with it. And it's not about like a deadline or like a
Sure.
budget. So I can like spend more time doing a thing or forget about it for 2 months. But yeah, it does like throw me back to a time, because like I remember things that I built like in my first shop in my parents' garage. And then I remember things that I built in, the barnyard,
Hmm.
and like literally puts me back like in that space, with like I had a eucalyptus grove in the back. It was on like 2 acres. There was a hammock there, so it like kind of throws you back into that. And then there's like the pieces that I've made that have like made the transition to like one shop to the next. So you kind of are living like in a little bit of both worlds. And like now I'm making things in this shop, but like I'm only going to be in this shop for, another 2, 3 years, and then it's on to the next place. So yeah, I guess everything kind of does like date you in time, but it does make it easier to like keep track of yourself.
And those pieces are also going to last hundreds
Yeah.
of years in the
Oh
way
yeah.
quality that you make them.
Yeah. And like just being able to like look back on something and like knowing that it's going to withstand the test of time, is like that's like rewarding in itself. Like I could see myself like getting into like a little bit of stone work, because
Cool.
like wood is like, good for 300 years.
Hmm.
You see stuff in museums that's from the 1700s, but you see stuff in stone, that's just there forever. You know what I mean? So I feel like I'll probably generate more towards that, more as like a hobby, not as something I'm gonna like sell or do professionally for other people. But yeah,
Do you?
like my main motivation is that like creating something that is gonna last, that is gonna
Okay.
outlast me. It's more of like a legacy type thing.
Are you comforted by that? Or are you like a little startled by that? Because that's
No,
like
I
every
I
time you
love
build.
that, because like there's things that my grandpa made that I have, you know what I mean? They're still here and he's gone. So it's like he would be super happy to see that same thing get enjoyed. So I'm the same way. Like once we're gone, like, if something can outlast me and someone else can enjoy it, then that's great. And that's how I look at some of the things that I do make for myself. It's like I enjoyed the process of me making this thing, and then I got to enjoy it for a day or a week or a year, however long the thing takes to sell. And then someone else gets to enjoy it. You know what I mean? And that makes me like just as happy, because someone is taking like a pure representation of something that I created for myself, and they're saying like, I like this, like I
Mhm.
want this. You know what I mean? And that's the ultimate, feeling right there. That's like the ultimate
Compliment.
goal of like, yeah, accomplishment and everything. So that's like what I'm always after. Is someone like being like, I want that thing so bad that like they're gonna enjoy it just as much as me. Sorry,
You're good.
I'm choking up over here. No, just kidding.
I appreciate like you seem like a very insightful person in the way you're able to think through all these processes. And like back to the terminology. The terminology within woodworking, and especially like I learned about boats, which has been my passion since I was like 13 kind of thing. And
Hmm.
there's a name for every piece of wood on a boat. And just like learning the terminology of communication is something that I still struggle with within like the mental health world. There's a
Yeah.
lot of emotions and conversations that I try to have, and just can't find the right word that someone
Yeah, the
understands.
terminology to get,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm dyslexic and I struggle when it comes to like remembering things, especially like acronyms or like abbreviations and things
Hmm.
like that. Like I can't keep up, Like I feel your pain.
Do you find that through woodworking though, like that's kind of been for me, it's a blessing that like there is a finite amount of information that I can give to somebody and we can both understand.
Hmm. What do you mean? Can you
Like
elaborate?
like it's a shared conversation. Back to talking about the conversations with the 70-year-old men, and you're just bonding and you're soulful, honestly. Like
Yeah.
you're able to connect with someone on a conversational level where it's effortless. What's it like to, I mean, you're also a part of a large community of YouTubers and like wood turners and that kind of thing. What's it like to have people in your life now? Probably started around North Bennett, I assume, was probably the first time you're around like other talented people like yourself.
Hmm.
What's it like to have a community that kind of understands your work and what you're trying to pursue?
Oh, it's great, man. I mean, it's like I feel like most people strive to be a part of a community or some
Mhm.
sort of, bonding thing, and it's like you once you have that, like you have other people to like not rely on, but like other people are going through the same things as you at different times, and like everyone's honestly like there to help. You know what I mean? Like even if it's just a question on how to do something, or you're going through something, or terrible things happen to people, and you see them go through it, and you see them come out of it. It's like when you have these like deep bonds with them because of like you're making things. You know what I mean? And like you both get that like just the enjoyment of building things with your hands. So you build. I mean, honestly, yeah, you just like having a community of people is like, I feel like the ultimate goal. Once you find your passion, like the next step is to find people to share it with. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, and then once you're sharing with people, it's like you're living it, you're in it, that's the ultimate goal for me, at least. It's being able to share with people, have them enjoy it, have them buy it, have them watch things, just like maybe learn some stuff, like everything in between. It's that like just as the community is where it's at.
Well, I appreciate it's a good way to wrap this up, I guess. I appreciate you becoming a part of our community and sitting down
Yeah,
and sharing
man.
some time with us.
Awesome. Yeah, if you ever want to come back on or have another conversation about something else, just let me know.
Sweet. I'm gonna plug some of your stuff if that's cool with you as well. You have a
Yeah.
website you want to throw in?
Yeah, my website's Wood by Toth, WODBYTOTH, and my
Toth like
Instagram,
both.
Toth like both, yes. My Instagram is Toth and Wood by Toth. You can search my name, find it online. I'm on everything. So
Kyle, I so appreciate you spending some time with me. All the best to you, bud, and take care.
thanks, man.